Hi, I'm Lisa Rangel with Chameleon Resumes, the premier executive resume writing company. Thank you so much for joining me today. So today we're going to talk about 5 problems I've observed in most resume templates. Now, this is a time of year where definitely people are getting their resume ready just to be prudent, just to be prepared, which is what I love to hear. And, you may not need to hire somebody like me or a company like me, but you're going to do it yourself using a template. And I want to give you 5 consistent problems that I see in a lot of different templates. So this way you can be on the lookout. And if you're interested in getting resume templates, I'm going to give you a link at the end of this video where you can get the ones that I've designed. But most importantly, I want to give you 5 common areas that I've observed tend to be problems with most templates. And this way you can be on the lookout as you're seeking the template that's right for you. So the first problem that I see with a lot of templates is that they are way too graphical. There's a lot of graphical elements, and honestly, most recruiters don't like them. They want you to start with a clean, MS Word template typically. And while you can always turn whatever you're doing into a PDF, you want the basis of the document to be really clean, really simple, and speak to what you're doing, and have the layout support that mission of just speaking simply about what you do that is relevant to the prospective employer. So that's number one. And actually also on the topic of, too much graphics, too many graphics in a template, a lot of times I see that the graphical elements in the document are just there for the sake of being graphical and fancy, but they don't really serve a purpose. Like all the elements of a resume should have the goal of moving the eye through the document and showcasing what is extremely relevant for you based on what that reader, that hiring manager wants to see in you as the candidate. And if every decision about what's written and what's laid out on a document needs to support that mission. So you want to make sure that you are including elements, both written and visual elements that support that mission. And I feel like a lot of times the graphical stuff on there is distracting. It doesn't really serve a purpose. And it's just to, have the mission of you have a fancy resume, but it's not really achieving the goal of it delivers what you do in an impactful way to the reader who's reading it, and it's relevant to that person. So if, everything you do with your template needs to support that goal. And I feel like when it's too graphical, too many graphical elements, it sometimes defeats that purpose. So that's number one. Number 2 is that I find that the templates can be really complex, and they're not designed for non-professional resume writers to use, right? Regular people, right? Let's call everyone who's not a professional resume writer a regular person, right? So they're not designed for regular people to use. And, yes, if you hire somebody like me, we might be able to do, some cool, tasteful, meaningful, graphical elements, again, in a minimalist capacity. I don't really do a lot of graphical elements, or we might have some ideas about how to lay out the document in a different way. But if you're doing this yourself, you need to have a template that is going to support the fact that you're not a pro, but you, and with some direction, you're able to then maneuver around the template that should be really simple in its makeup, and it should be easy for you to move around in, and it should be easy for you to craft the document content. And if it's too complex, it's written more for pros, it's not going to help you, right? So that to me is another problem that I see with some resume templates, is that they're just not written for the regular person in mind to use. The third problem that I see is that they give you this pretty template, but then they're not really sharing with you any best practices or guidance or training on how to populate the document, how to write the content that's going to draw the reader in and keep them reading. How do you write recent relevant achievements? How do you show, the relevancy of what you're doing to the person who's reading it? And that's where the connection comes into play, because they have a challenge. The hiring manager or the person you're networking with has a challenge or an opportunity, or both, right? A challenge can be an opportunity before them. and they're looking for someone who has made a difference in that same challenge or opportunity that they have before them. So this way you can come and do it for them. So you need to show that recent relevant achievement that shows how you made a difference where you were, and have that be the same type of difference that wants to be made at that prospective employer. So you want to make sure that you have some instructions from the person that created that template on how to write it in the best way possible so you can showcase yourself in the best light. So that's problem number 3. Problem number 4 that I see in a lot of templates is that they're not designed from a recruiter's perspective, right? Look, in a nutshell, a resume is a marketing document meant to influence someone having a hiring conversation, wanting to have a hiring conversation with you, right? It's not hiring you, right? The resume is not going to be the catalyst to getting you hired immediately or directly, right? There's going to be but you want someone to read it and reach out to you so you can have a conversation that can ultimately lead you to getting hired if it's the right job for you. So never forget that purpose. This document needs to appeal to recruiters, to hiring managers, to decision makers at prospective employers so they can want to have conversations with you. That is the end game for all resumes for the most part, right? If it's too fancy or somebody's, trying to pride themselves on the amazing writing that they're doing, but the amazing writing isn't appealing to the reader, your ultimate, audience who's going to bring you in for an interview, or if it's, a kitchen sink type of resume showing everything you ever did, but it's by putting everything you ever did in the document, you're basically you're clouding up the real nuggets that the reader needs to see to know that you're right for the job, right? So if the writer of the document or the creator of the template is too in love with their graphical elements, or their writing instruction pontifications, or just that they're trying to complicate the process because it makes them feel a little self-important, then that's only serving the person who created the template, right? That's serving that pro. A template needs to be designed from the recruiter's perspective for a regular person to use successfully. That, as a pro, our egos have to be removed from the process. We have to make it easy for the regular person, right? For you, the non-pro, in writing your own resume. But we got to give you the edge of knowing how recruiters are going to perceive it and design it in that way. So that to me is the 4th problem, is that, if you don't have insight into the hiring process and you don't know either firsthand or through, research in your network of networking with recruiters, because there's a lot of really great writers out there that have never recruited before, but they know based on their connections, their work, their diligence in trying to understand the process, even second-handedly, they know how these documents are used and perceived. And, you need to understand how hiring works to write these documents effectively. Now, not everybody needs to be a recruiter. It does help. And not every recruiter knows what they're doing when it comes to writing a resume either, right? So but it helps you have to know how hiring works. And that's sometimes a missing element in some templates if they haven't recruited or taken the time to understand recruiting when they're writing their documents, right? So that to me is a 4th problem that I see. And then the 5th problem that I see is that the document is too rigid in terms of all the different fields that it has, and it's not in a free form way. And when it's an MS Word document, or if it's not an MS Word document, that in and of itself can be a problem, right? Because most corporate systems that are digesting resumes, they're based on Microsoft products, right? And so it doesn't, putting a document into a Google Doc, unless of course you're applying to Google, but some of the lesser common word processing systems don't lend themselves as well to having a resume, and they're not as digestible to resumes in some cases. So, or to the systems in some cases. So, I've had someone send me their own Google Doc resume, and I needed to request permission to access it. Now I did, because I was going to have a conversation with them and see if I can help them. But if you're sending that same GDoc document to a recruiter, most of them aren't going to ask for the permission to open it if you didn't send it with open permission, right? So I've seen that mistake over and over and over again. I never had that. I don't see people having that problem with MS, MS Word documents. So it needs to be a free form MS Word document, not highly contrived with a ton of fields and fixed areas, because it just makes it harder for the user to use. And sometimes with some email clients and applicant tracking systems, it just makes the document harder to digest. It's, again, not every document is going to have a problem, but I find just that the simpler it is in Word, the better off it typically is. There's not one product that will work every time with every applicant tracking system, with every email client or anything. There's always going to be some system out there that won't read your resume properly. There's not one that's 100% perfect. But you do want to make sure that you're working with a document that's simple, clean, a free form, not a lot of fields, not a lot of treatment to it, not a lot of graphical elements, and that will typically increase your odds to not having any issues as you're sending it out and submitting it in different portals. So if this helps you, I'm really happy about that. And if you're interested in the resume templates that I've designed that have worked over and over again for our clients for years, you can go to the link below and buy the resume templates that I include with instructions and videos and my ebook, and some with 3 samples in the bundle 3 templates in the bundle that I've created for different scenarios. So I hope this helps you, and I hope it gets you off to a good start. If you have any questions, you can always email me at lr@chameleonresumes.com. Or comment below. I pride myself on trying to read and reply to every email and every comment. And if you like the video, I'm going to ask you to like it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you do not miss next week's video. And if you know someone who's going to go through this exercise for themselves to start the year off right, I'm going to ask you to share the video so they can have the right mindset when picking their own resume template. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great week and a great start to the new year. Take care.